disseminate Iha in this world, Tishtatu may remain. Uddhava is not inferior to me in any way, because he is never affected by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he may remain in this world in order to disseminate specific knowledge of the personality of God.
Specific qualification for becoming the representative of the Lord is to be unaffected by the material modes of nature. The highest qualification of a person in the material world is to be a Brahmana. Since a Brahman is in the mode of goodness, to be a Brahman is not sufficient for becoming a representative of the Lord. One has to transcend the mode of goodness also and be situated in unalloyed goodness, unaffected by any of the qualities of material nature. This stage of transcendental qualification is called Shuddha Sattva, or Vasudeva. And in this stage, the science of God can be realized. As the Lord is not affected by the modes of material nature, so a pure devotee of the Lord is also not affected by the modes of nature. That is the primary qualification for being one with the Lord. A person who is able to attain this transcendental qualification is called Jivan Mukta, or liberated, even though he is apparently in material conditions. This liberation is achieved by one who constantly engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.187, it is stated, Iha yasya Hare dasye karmana manasa gira nikila swapi yavastasu jivan mukta sa uchite. Quote, anyone who by his actions, mind, and words lives only for the transcendental loving service of the Lord is certainly a liberated soul, even though he may appear to be in a condition of material existence, unquote. Uddhava was in such a transcendental position, and thus he was selected to be the factual representative of the Lord in his bodily absence from the vision of the world. Such a devotee of the Lord is never affected by material strength, intelligence, or even renunciation. Such a devotee of the Lord can withstand all onslaughts of material nature, and therefore he is known as Goswami. Only such Goswamis can penetrate the mysteries of the Lord's transcendental loving relationships.
The Lord is not even properly represented by one who is in the mode of goodness, because the Lord is not just in the mode of goodness. He can't be understood simply by good things, because some people think that it's not good if there's a hurricane and people get harmed by that. So they may criticize even God, as they're so attached to being good, or they think they're being good, or have good ideas, that they're even willing to put God to the test and accuse him of not being good enough. But they don't know that the Lord always acts on the transcendental platform. And even though we may not be able to understand it, Ataksha Krishna Namadi Namalekana Indriyai. The Lord, he can't be understood by mundane mind or mundane senses. Otherwise, we'll limit him. Someone may say, I don't think that this picture or form of God is very attractive. I'm not attractive. And if God's supposed to be all attractive, then why am I not attractive? That to be attracted by God's form means one has to be qualified then just like for the iron is attracted to a magnet. But if the iron filings have been remaining in water for a long time, then they become rusty. And rusty iron filings are not attracted, even by a powerful magnet. They have to be clean. So the chanting and devotional service is a process of cleaning the dirty hearts. Then one can understand the Lord. Then one can understand what is transcendence. He can think like one acting in the spiritual realm, and he's not forced to act just in goodness. He can act above goodness. So someone may say, well, how can there be anything better than good? Because our idea of good in the material world is limited. So anything that we have that limits God in any way is mundane. He can't be limited. He can do anything. You may say, well, he can do anything as long as it's moral. Moral according to whose calculation? Because some people might think that if the Lord dances with someone else's apparent wife or wives, then that's immoral and therefore cannot be condoned. And there are many who criticize because they don't understand that how can there be any wives that are not the wives of God? If he's the supreme enjoyer of everything, then all the women are meant for his enjoyment. All the men are meant for his enjoyment. How he enjoys them, that's his choice. That's his transcendental desire fulfilled. He fulfills it. And those who are pure devotees, they're willing to act in order to satisfy him in all circumstances, whether it's considered morally correct or incorrect. Arjuna was trying to analyze the whole situation on the battlefield of Kurukshetra by using moral standards. He was my father, my grandfather, my teacher, my beloved brothers, my beloved uncles, on and on, so many. And they're standing before me wanting to fight. I don't care. I'm not interested in getting their kingdom. I can live without any wealth. I'd rather live without any wealth than cause distress to my relatives and my teachers. That's nice. These are nice moral thoughts, but Krishna didn't accept them. Krishna said, no. While speaking learned words, you're mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. So this is hard for people to understand, that God could possibly want something to happen that appears to be dissatisfactory and will not bring happiness to the people.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. There's one, at least one instance that I'm aware of where Prabhupada was giving a Pandal lecture, and some persons were kind of asking or implying that Krishna had behaved improperly with the wives of others, other men. And as Maharaj pointed out, all women as well as all men, everything, everywhere is meant for his pleasure, his service. Just like, if you own, and say you're taking care of an iPhone, right? Or we say like that. Devotees get in the habit of saying, in the care of Magadari Das. That's our habit. You say, this kurta is in the care of Magadari Das, right? It's not my property. Exactly. Right? So you may see that. C-O in the care of. You see, sometimes you see that devotees will write that on different things. Just so that, hey, everyone knows that this is something that this servant of Krishna has been asked to take care of. So he's trying to protect it because that's his service, like that. So similarly, everything, even ourselves, are property of Krishna. So we may think, right, this iPhone is my property. And when we think like that, then it's supposed to be for my pleasure. Not that you just take it whenever you want and play whatever games and do videos and all that, right? Say you have a brother or sister, or your mom or dad or somebody you don't even know comes up and says, hey, let me use that iPhone. No, that's for my pleasure, isn't it? No. You don't get to do whatever you want with it. That's for my pleasure. So this is the whole idea, is that similarly, Krishna has rightful claim to every one of us and everything that exists. So when somebody comes around and says, hey, let me use that one, he's so magnanimous, actually. Then he will let that person pretend like it's his. He won't just snatch it immediately. It's okay. Let him have his fun. Or he can pretend that he's the owner of this body, and he's the owner of this wife. He's the owner of this family. He's the owner of this money. He's the owner of this car. He's the owner of this power, this name, this fame, this wealth, this ability. I'll let him pretend, right? But actually, we're not the owner. And actually, he's the enjoyer. So in this lecture where Prabhupada was discussing with this person tried to criticize that actually Krishna is immoral because he took the wives of other men and he associated with them inappropriately. Now, the rasa dance is about dancing. That's it. There's no mundane contamination. As soon as we go in the forest like that, with so many, members of the opposite sex, then there'll be simply contamination. Despicable, actually. But when Krishna does it, actually he was a young person at that time. If you follow the history of the Krishna book, he's not that elderly, and he's just dancing with them. Anyway, there's no contamination there. But he's the one who's meant to enjoy, right? Not us. So this man, he made this claim that Krishna is immoral because he associated with other people's wives inappropriately, right? But Prabhupada, he was a little sharp with him. Sadhu, sometimes sadhu, sometimes means one who cuts. Right? It means one who, a saint, but he can also cut, like a surgeon. Surgeon uses a knife very, very purposefully. He wants to help the patient, not hurt him. He's not a madman with a knife. He's very careful to do an operation. Something is there and it has to be repaired, it has to be amended, it has to be cut, it has to be removed. So like that, we have these misconceptions that God can do something immoral. So Prabhupada gave him a little cut. He said, who's that woman? In India, Vedic culture is a high class society in general, So if you're sitting just next to a woman, it's assumed that the person is your wife, isn't it? They're there together at the event. One man and one woman together at the event, sitting there. Hey, if you ask, actually, it's offensive, just to even ask, right? So Prabhupada said, who is that woman? He said, is my wife only. He said, no, that's Krishna's wife. Like that. He said, you have actually stolen other man's wife, actually. That's what has happened. Because she is actually Krishna's wife. Maybe paraphrasing a little bit, but this was the essence of it. That this man was trying to criticize Krishna for something that actually he is doing. And we're all doing that. What's amazing is that the devotees don't have any misconceptions about Krishna. They've been completely freed from all misconceptions about Krishna's personality. And it's stated in different places in the Bhagavatam that such personalities walk the earth simply to give, simply to bless the fallen souls, just like we say in the morning time. Once a day, right, in the morning program, we meditate and we sincerely pray that the Vaishnava devotees, wherever they may be, either locally, internationally, on the internet, in the other countries, in the other planets, the other universes, that they'll be merciful to us and forgive us for all of the silly offenses that we're making at every moment. And we sincerely, if we can develop that mood of apology, that mood of sincere regret that, yes, I am actually disrespecting the devotees of the Lord, that they are so dear to Krishna that, just as we heard Krishna say in this verse, that such devotees are never different from himself even. He considers them one with himself because they're never contaminated by the modes of nature, by their constant absorption in devotional service. Right? Brahmabhuta prasanatma, like that. By their full absorption in devotional service. They have this vyavasayatmika buddhi here, ekeha kurunandana. They're one-pointed in pleasing Krishna at every moment. And therefore Krishna says, to his exalted devotees that he's purchased, he's captured, he's controlled, he's bound by their love, by that affection. And we hear all over the Vedic scriptures, which is described in the verse that we sing to Prabhupada, that his glories, Vedegai, right? Vedegai Jahara Charito, that his glory, the guru's glories, the person who is fully dedicated to the Lord's mission is glorified all over the scriptures. Just like we heard. Does anybody remember this verse that we heard about today? There's a famous line or a phrase that describes that person called the Jivan Mukta. Even in this body, which is, understood to be more or less a temporary manifestation made of the modes of nature or made of the material elements, that person is actually liberated even being embodied because of their complete dedication in mind, body, and words. And actually that's the vow of the sannyasi. And actually they also there's 3 sticks. That's called Tridandi Goswami. We heard about the Goswami. They're the ones who can understand the Rasa Tattva. They're the ones who can understand the relationships that Krishna has with his devotees because they don't have any misidentification with the body. And beyond that, they simply identify not just as Brahman, like the Ekadandi sannyasis. They're identifying simply as Brahman. It's all one. I am Brahman, you're Brahman, everything is Brahman, right? They think, okay, the deity is there, he is Brahman, and so am I. Therefore, what is the point of going to temple? God is everywhere. I myself am God. This is such a poisonous philosophy. There's no hope for such a person who entertains this submissively. And it's stated in the Isha Upanishad, he descends lower and lower and lower and lower because of his envy for the Lord. So this is the last snare of Maya. Anyway, we're glorifying the devotees who have dedicated mind, body, and words for the service of the Lord. That's called Tridandi Sannyas. And Prabhupada discusses in many purports in the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee, even without being situated externally in the ashram of sannyas, can be sannyas. And actually, Arjuna took that up himself. He decided to become an instrument. Nimitta Matra. Savyasachin. Savyasachin is a name for Arjuna, which means that he's the carrier of the bow. He's very expert at being an expert bowman. It's referring to that. There's also Dhanur Dadaha. Dhanur Dadaha means he's the carrier of the bow. But Savyasachin is also referring to his bowmanship. And Krishna says, just be an instrument. Just be an instrument in my hands. So that's what it's like for the pure devotees. They're simply an instrument in the Lord's hands. So we're very fortunate to have their association. And it's said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that even one moment's association with that person is unimaginably beneficial spiritually. I think it's sadhu sangha, sarva shastra koi. Yeah, it's called a lava matra. There's even a fraction of a moment, with association of a great soul. And what's amazing is by the instructions of the spiritual master, one can have constant association. That's called Vani. So it's interesting. The pure devotees, like Uddhava, they more or less cast a net with their instructions, right? Like Srila Prabhupada, he casts he casts a very merciful net, and he entraps so many conditioned souls in his transcendental instructions. Just like he describes, Prabhupada, chant, chant. So they're taking prasadam this when they were at the New Year's Eve festival, which wasn't as big as Sunday festival. Right? That goes to show how important, our Sunday festival is that it's actually more popular than this party. Of course, New Year's Eve is pretty big nowadays in ISKCON also. A lot of people love New Year's Eve. Of course, it's just another day, but we're going to use it for Krishna just the same. So if people like to celebrate and they're a little pious, let them come to the temple, do kirtan, take prasadam like that. So Prabhupada was there with his disciples, and he was sitting on the dais, which is like a raised platform, a little bit raised, which is the proper etiquette for disciples, is to sit actually for them to sit at a lower level than their spiritual master. Of course, with his permission, then one can do. So Prabhupada was there saying, eat more. No, he was encouraging everybody, eat so much. And saying, chant, chant. So those boys who chanted and ate prasadam, they got captured by Krishna. He cast the net for them. Just chant and eat tonight. And then he got them. Anybody who grabs hold in that net, allows himself to be bound by that net, he will actually himself capture the guru and capture Krishna. Isn't it? He captures so many people by his easy transcendental instructions. Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnava Acharyas. And then they're so obliged to such a person who actually follows their instructions, because they only instruct what? Service to Krishna. And they love Krishna. So anyone who does any service for Krishna, they're so appreciative. So they end up purchasing his mercy. And by that, then he's captured to them. And specifically at initiation, one says, okay, I've passed your tests. I've qualified myself by my sincere practice, which is all due to the mercy of Krishna, because I can't even move my tongue without his mercy. But he has allowed me to follow your instructions. Please give me initiation. And when he agrees to give Diksha, he says, before the deity of Krishna and the fire sacrifice and his spiritual master, he says, I will take you back to Godhead. I guarantee you, I'm going to come back if I need to. That's my pact with you. And your pact with me is that you follow my instructions. So the idea is, don't pick up spiritual master unless we're ready to follow the instructions. That's why there's a period beforehand. One has to get to know the person like that. So we're so fortunate. We're spreading Prabhupada's Vani and we're following Prabhupada's Vani. And by every moment we follow this transcendental program, we're getting his blessings. And it's just like, when we associate with something very intimately, just like actually Hiranyakashipu describes, if you have like a prism, it reflects whatever's around it, So that's like association. When we associate, we get the qualities of who's we're associating with. So Prabhupada has a lecture where he says, associate with the faithful. If we want faith, we have to associate with the faithful. When we associate with persons, what does associate means? Associate means when we hear them submissively. When we allow their opinion to change our heart, to change our determination. So materialistic persons, right? They have no faith in the Lord. They have no faith in devotional service. They have no faith in the deity, no faith in prasadam, no faith in the Bhagavad Gita, no faith in the holy name, no faith in the Vaishnava acharyas, no faith in tapasya, no faith in austerities, no faith in the afterlife, no faith in reincarnation. So we associate with them and we hear them submissively as if they have something beneficial for me and my soul, rather for myself, right? Then that damages our devotional service because our faith is weakened. So we're very fortunate. Devotees like Uddhava, right? Like Srila Prabhupada, who is coming in that line, of great Mahajans. We have to take advantage of their association so we can become faithful. Because faith, there's 9 steps of devotional service. Always beneficial to evaluate, where am I really? If I'm up and down in devotional service, but I've already become initiated, that means I'm on my way and I'm working and I'm fighting through anartha nivritti. Or else there'd be no up and down. Right? And that is a hard fight. If we haven't taken initiation, then we're even before level 3. Means we're only on sadhu sangha. Means we have to take that association like it's our life and soul. Why? How does one progress in the different steps? It's stated by the acharyas, faith. The different steps of advancement in devotional service are a matter of faith. When somebody has completely unflinching faith, implicit faith in the spiritual master and in Krishna, all the imports of the Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed to him. And what is it? What is the end of Vedic knowledge? Bhakti. Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. He becomes Prema Bhakti. He becomes a Prema Bhakta, rather. He attains pure devotional service. So the idea is we have to try to get that faith. So sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha is the thing that nourishes our devotional service throughout the whole process. Because by associating with the faithful, we become faithful. We take our practice more seriously. We become more determined, right? To do what it takes to turn my face towards the Lord instead of all the other things that the material world wants to show me. Okay. Thank you very much, devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So, Prabhuji Maharaj also talked about the 3 modes of material nature and the need to transcend it. Like we have the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And Brahmana might be situated in the mode of goodness, but that is not sufficient. Rather, we need to achieve the ideal stage of unalloyed goodness. So, it's like Shuddha Bhakti. The query which I have is, some people would have more of mode of goodness, some would have more of mode of passion. So it's a mixed bag. And when we take into devotional service, so a pure devotee would he directly transform himself from, say, the mode of ignorance to the mode of goodness, or else it happens through a step-by-step process? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, good question. So as soon as he engages in devotional service with full enthusiasm, basically he tries his best under the order of the spiritual master. By that connection with the pure devotee, he himself is considered a pure devotee. But he's like a mango which is not yet ripe. The pure devotee in full maturation of his devotional service is like a very beautiful, flavored, aroma, colored, mango, completely ripened. And those who are following with the best of their ability the instructions of such a person, he's like a green mango. So when we come to devotional service, you're right, we come with different karma. The idea is to use whatever we have in the Lord's service under the direction of the spiritual master. So the idea is that it's like if we have a certain service, we may do it in a way which reflects our material conditioning. Just like somebody is told to do some cleaning, and he kind of just he does it, but it doesn't really get a little bit into ignorance, a little bit ignorant of the details. He goes for wiping, but he leaves a lot of things. I'm not trying to point anything out. This happens. You know what I mean? A little bit of ignorance. Still, it's very good. He has served Krishna. If that's his duty, very good. And Krishna will help him slowly, slowly rise through training. A Brahmana, actually, everyone is born a Shudra, right? I think there's one shloka which states that from the scriptures. Everyone is born a Shudra, right? But through training, one becomes a Brahmana. So one learns to associate with the higher modes. What are the qualities of the higher modes of nature? Like that: cleanliness, austerity, knowledge, realization, religiousness, like that. Those are discussed in chapter 18, text 44 for the Brahmanas. So one gets trained. Okay, Prabhu, whenever you do it, try to pay attention that you're picking up the food items from the table and put them somewhere beneficial rather than the floor, or smear it or like that. So then he associates with that higher mode through training. It may take some time for him to really put it in action. But the only way to rise in the modes of nature is by association with the spiritual master through devotional service. Otherwise, you're dictated by karma. There's your karma to be more in the mode of goodness this life. So then somebody may have that passionate nature, and he may do this service and may be very enthusiastic, but then tomorrow he can't do any service. Isn't it? Right? Still, it was good if that was his service to do it. But he also can make improvements, because the spiritual master is pleased with the motive, with the mode of goodness. That if devotees do out of duty, with enthusiasm, determination, these things are discussed also in Bhagavad Gita. One may do the service with a idea, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the one that's the hero. That's in the mode of passion. But if he's doing his kirtan, he's doing his japa, he's doing his service because he's been asked to by the pure devotee, he'll become purified. And then there's the mode of goodness. He may be very careful and things like that. One has to be also wary in that one, because In the mode of goodness, one may say, life is great. What's the point of serving Krishna, going through all this trouble to serve Krishna? I'm already a good person. So that has to be also traversed. So it takes some time. And, sometimes we may have bad habits this whole lifetime. But if we engage sincerely in the Lord's devotional service, then Krishna will preserve what we have and he'll carry what we lack. If we're very much lacking, Krishna will protect our devotional service and we can attain success regardless. Thank you, Prabhupada.